This conference will now be recorded.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, hi, we can able to hear you properly. Thank you.
Let's just give a couple of minutes, guys, for other folks to join, and we'll get started by 7:35 a.m. sharp IST. Just a couple more minutes.
One quick question. How long this session is going to be?
This is going to be a 1 hour long session, Satya.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. A very good morning and good evening, guys. I see a lot of new names who are not part of yesterday's demo. Um, that's fine. So can you ping me who are not part of yesterday's demo? You can use your chat window, guys. Hi, Komali. Jansi and Vaishnavi, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
have attended the last session and last demo.
Got you, got you. Thanks for waiting. Others, only three. I could see Komali, Jhansi, and Vaishnavi. Anybody else? Okay, Shravan. Cool. Um, let's get started, guys. I'll be spending 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes on our introduction. Okay, and then we'll get started with the session. This is not a demo, guys. Our regular session starts from tomorrow. Other details will be given by your consultant. I mean, these guys, career IT guys. Okay. So, like most of you know me because you have been part of my couple of demos, right? So, let me introduce myself for the others who don't me. My name is Suresh, guys. I have close to 8 years of experience, 8+ years of experience. I was sorry, I'm a full-time data engineer. I implement data engineering solutions using Python. I have been working on Python for almost 5 years now, and I have been training folks on Python for 3 years now. Okay, and I also train folks on data engineering technologies as well. I have been doing that from past 5 years. I have trained more than 3,000 students so far from the past 5 years on data engineering and Python courses. So this is a brief intro about me, guys. Would like to know about you. You know my format. Most of you know my format. Your name, and then your experience, and then the current technology you're working on. Something like this. Suresh, maybe 8 years experience, and then technology is data engineering. If you are a fresher, it's simple, just like Suresh, and then fresher. So this is what I would like to hear from you. You can probably use your chat window to ping your introduction. So these things will do. Satya, no, this is not a demo class. This is a regular session. Guys, can I see your intros, please? Gopi Krishna, fresher. Hi, Gopi. Jansi, 12 years wireless testing. Hi, Jansi. Hi, Amar. Hi, Nisha. Hi, Komali. Hi, Sai. Sai Kalyan. Hi, Vidyashree. Hi, Vaishnavi. Cool. Satya. Hi, Satya. Test manager, 14 years. Wow. Cool. Let's get started, guys. Let me start with a few rules. Since this is an online session, I would be waiting for your acknowledgement every time I have asked for, guys, because I couldn't interpret whether you are good with the topic or not, right? So for me to move ahead with confidence, I would need your acknowledgement in the chat window. A simple Y or N will do. Okay. And if you have any questions, please feel free. You can just unmute yourself and ask question once the topic is completed. Say, for example, I'm in the middle of a topic. I don't want you to interrupt it in between, because you might get your answer in the further discussion, right? So let's say once I have completed my topic, I'll ask you any questions. Okay, you can either unmute yourself or use your chat window for asking your questions or posting your concerns. Okay, so anything is fine. And then not just the classroom questions. Maybe when you are practicing offline, if you get some questions, yes, you can reach out to our career IT folks or your respective consultants, right? So that they'll connect you with me. Okay, say for example, you are installing maybe Anaconda's distribution in your system. You're stuck somewhere and you're not able to proceed further. Yes, you can definitely reach out to our consultants, and they will be connecting you with me. Okay, so that support is there. You don't need to bother about that, right? And then maybe you want to talk to me personally. Yes, they can arrange those things as well, right? And second thing, everyday session starts at 7:35 a.m. IST, guys. And the sessions would be recorded. Let's say you have joined 15-minute, 20-minute late because of your other commitments. That's totally fine. But I would request you not to disturb the class at that time for the topics you have missed. I would recommend you to go through the recordings and then get back to me if you have any questions. I will be more than happy to take your questions. Okay, and then what are the materials I'm going to show you, or what are the artifacts I'm going to use, code, etc., will be shared to you at the end of every module. Not at the end of every session, but at the end of every module. Okay, so recordings will be uploaded daily, but the code and other data sets or artifacts, whatever I'm using in this course, will be shared to you only after the module is completed. Okay. So these are the few things which I want to share before starting the session, guys. And I welcome you, and happy learning. Let's get started. Few topics could be repetitive, guys, from your demo, because I cannot assume everyone are part of my demo. So there will be few topics which are repetitive, but yes, we will talk about a lot of new things today. Okay, and also let's try to make this session lively and as interactive as possible, guys. Keep asking questions, keep answering to whatever you know. And like I said, in my sessions you are free to use Google. Okay, the whole point of asking questions or asking you to interact is to make you active and make sessions lively. Okay, so our course name is Comprehensive Python, guys. Let's start with appreciating who invented Python. Any idea, guys? Who is the father of Python? Any idea? Like I said, you are free to use Google. Okay, so his name is Guido von Rossum. Okay, so let's start our course by thanking him, Guido von Rossum, for providing us with this beautiful programming language. Okay, so if somebody of you coming from Java background, or maybe if you have implemented or seen code in other programming languages, you would definitely appreciate Python, guys, for its ease of use, and then easy to understand syntaxes. Most of the functionalities are available as packages. You don't need to write a lot of code. You can directly use those modules or packages. Okay, so you have a lot of such features in Python. So thanks to this guy, Guido von Rossum. Okay, now let's try to understand some basics of programming. I know most of you are freshers, and then few of you might not be from computer science background as well. Okay, so we'll try to understand some terminology related to computer and some terminology related to this programming language, which would make our life easy in the further sessions. Okay, so what is a program, guys? Let's not talk about, let's not get into programming language yet. So what is a program? Any idea? What is a program? I hope none of you are sleeping. Instructions. Okay. Any other answers, guys? Okay, a program is nothing but a set of instructions, guys. I mean, a bookish definition though, but set of instructions. Um, Let me tell you what exactly it is. For you to interact with your system, you need some mode of communication, right? So you cannot just tell your computer, do that, do this. Okay, so you will have to provide some instructions. You'll have to provide some instructions to get your task done. Maybe you want to run a .mp4 file, or maybe you want to compile a text file. Okay, or maybe you want to use your browser. Okay, so you will have to tell your computer how to do that. Okay, so you might tell me, boss, for text file I'm not giving any instructions, I'm just using a notepad software, or maybe I'm just using Word document, or I'm just using WordPad. Okay, so this WordPad, Notepad, or Word document you are referring to, they're all a set of instructions, guys. They're all programs running in the backend. Though they are presented using a beautiful GUI, at the end of the day, they are programs in the backend. Okay, so that's how you interact with your computer, by providing a set of instructions. Let's start with a simple example. Maybe you want to do a calculation, maybe simple addition. You cannot just say, hey PC, add 10 plus 10 for me. It will not be able to do. Okay, so you'll have to pass a set of instructions. And how do you pass these set of instructions? Using a language. And that language is what we refer to as programming language. Okay, now there are different types of programming languages, guys. Okay, now let's get into that classification. First one is low level versus high level programming language, and the second type is compiled versus interpreted programming language, and then third is procedural versus object oriented programming structures. Okay, or object oriented programming. Right, so let's try to understand what exactly are these types, and to what categories Python belongs to. Let's get started with low level to high level programming language. This is the first classification. Okay, so any idea, guys, what is this low level language or high level language? Any idea? Hariprasad, I like your answer here. What is a program? Set of ordered operations. Somehow I missed it, but good answer. So any idea, guys? Low level, high level? High level assembly language is low level. High level language that user can understand easily. Any other answers, guys, or any other views? Okay. So low-level languages, like most of you have said, it's the language which can be easily understandable by your computer. And the high-level languages are something which can be easily understandable to you, okay, for us programs or humans. Okay, so let's try to deep dive into this thing, okay, because we have a lot to discuss here. You know, so first things first, what a computer can understand? The simple answer is zeros and ones. A computer can't understand more than zeros and ones, guys. So whatever the operations that are being done, they are being done using these zeros and ones. At least you are not feeding your inputs in zeros and ones, but there are softwares which would convert your instructions or whatever you want to do in terms of zeros and ones. Okay, so talking about these low-level languages, right? These low-level languages are, the languages which are easily understandable by your machine. Okay, and talking about high-level languages are easily understandable by a programmer. Okay, so let me try to give you some pointers. Talking about low-level, easily understandable by machine. Okay, and since this is machine level language, they are memory efficient. When I say memory efficient, they occupy less space in your RAM when they are being executed. Okay, and then examples are assembly language. Okay, and now talking about high level. Now talking about high level, exactly opposite points, guys. So easily understandable by humans. Okay, and then they are less memory efficient. Okay, and then here is a typo. So what are the languages, right? They are all high level languages, guys. C, C++, Java, and then Python. Okay, what not? Like what are the languages, and what are the languages that are being used are high level programming languages. So high level programming languages are the most used programming languages, guys, rather than low level programming languages. So there are very few use cases where low level programming languages are used, especially when it comes to chip design and other things. Low level programming languages are used. Okay, now, let's talk about other pointers. When it comes to execution, high-level programming languages are easier to execute than low-level programming languages. And then talking about portability, when I say portability, say for example, what are the code I have written in my machine should be able to execute in Amarnath machine, and it should be executed. It should be able to execute in Anusha's machine, in Hariprasad's machine, in Jansi's machine. That is what we call as portability. Okay, what are the code I have written can be ported to any other machine. Say for example, I have developed a software. If I say that it works only in Komali's machine, that doesn't work. Okay, so I cannot prepare a platform dependent software or a platform dependent code, right? So talking about that portability, low level languages are not portable, guys. They're platform dependent. Say for example, whatever the platform that's being used for developing that particular application cannot be ported to other platform. When I say platform, platform is a word which can include a lot of things, like your operating system, your processor type, etc. Okay, so does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Others can acknowledge in your chat window. Thank you. Guys, I'll tell you a simple trick here. So I usually take a lot of sessions, right? And in every single session, we'll have close to 10 to 15 students, right? And after a couple of months, and let me tell you what, I'm not bound to share my contact details as long as the session is going on. Okay, probably once the session is completed, I'll be sharing you my contact number, right? And maybe after a couple of months or 3 months, if you ping me in my WhatsApp or if you call me, I'll not be able to recognize you guys. The only way I would be able to recognize you is by making yourself more interactive in the session, acknowledging for whatever I have asked for. Okay. And I'll tell you another thing. Let's say 5 to 6 people are acknowledging to every single question of mine. Okay, so next time onwards, I'll be looking for only those 5 guys. Okay, so once I see that five, yes, 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 okay, I'll be moving on to the next topic. Okay, so keep acknowledging, it will give you a lot of advantages. Sometimes, right, when these guys are not there in the session, I feel lonely because they are the ones who are responding, and when they are not there, I feel lonely. Okay, so please try to make your presence. And like I said, you're paying a lot of money for attending these sessions. Make sure that you are taking something away from the session. You don't understand something, stop me, ask. Okay, if I'm not able to clarify your doubt, or if I'm not able to satisfy with the explanation, in the interest of other folks will continue, but I'll at least try to have a discussion with you offline after the session. Okay, hope that makes sense to everyone. Are you with me? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Cool. So that's about high level and low level programming languages, guys. Now you might ask me a question, boss. So I mean, there is a little discrepancy in your explanation. You said high-level programming languages are human understandable, and low-level programming languages are machine understandable. So then, how come you can pass instructions using a high-level programming language to your computer, which your computer doesn't understand? Is my question legitimate, guys? Is my question legitimate? So my question is, as per according to my explanation till now, high-level programming languages are understandable by humans, and low-level programming languages are understandable by machine. Okay, so machine can understand low-level programming languages. Conclusion. Now the question is, if that is the case, how can you pass instructions to your computer using a high-level programming language? Does that question make sense, guys? Okay, so here comes your answer, guys. Yes, compiler. So this compiler is the component which is doing the trick for us, which would convert your high level code to the machine understandable code. Okay, every programming language has its own compiler. C has C compiler, and then Java has Java compiler. So this Java compiler would convert your Java code into byte code. So we call that as byte code. Okay, similarly, we have Python compiler, we have Scala compiler. So without a compiler, we cannot execute our instructions, or we cannot process our instructions. Okay, so this compiler would actually take your code, whatever you have written, and then convert it into machine understandable code, and then execute that machine understandable code. Okay, so there are a lot of steps that are involved. So first step in compilation is what we call as parsing. Parsing. So I don't want to give the numbering. So first step of your code is parsing. Say for example, you have written a Python code and you are using a Python compiler to execute this code. Okay, so the first step, what your compiler will do is it will parse your code. What is the meaning of parsing? Basically, it will check for all the syntax and semantic errors in this parsing step. So syntax in the sense, let's say you have to follow a particular syntax, you should be following only that particular syntax. Okay, so I can give you an example, guys. Let's say I'm a Telugu guy. I know only Telugu and maybe I can speak a little English. Okay, let's say I don't know Hindi at all. If somebody comes to me and tell me, you know, अरे थोड़ा पानी दे दो, I don't understand what he said. Okay, I definitely can't understand what he said. So because the same thing happens, right? That is what we call as semantic. Okay, so I being a Python compiler, I don't understand a Java statement. Similarly, talking about syntax, okay, maybe most of the North Indians, right, especially the native Hindi speakers, if a Telugu guy or if a South Indian is speaking in Hindi, they make fun of our Hindi. The reason being, we exactly translate our mother tongue into Hindi. Okay, so that is what we call as syntax. Okay, we don't follow proper nouns or proper pronouns or vocabulary or whatever it is. What we just do is, so whatever we have in our mind in Telugu, we'll just translate that to Hindi, which sounds funny for them because it's not syntactically correct. Okay, so a simple generic example, guys. So that's what happens in the parsing step as well. It will check if we are using the proper semantics, which means, whatever the keywords we are using, whatever the operations we are doing, they should be related to only Python language. You cannot just write 2 lines of Python and 2 lines of Java. Okay, and second thing, it will also check the syntax, whether you have given proper indentations or whether you have given whether you have given all the required parameters for a function to execute. All those things will be checked in the parsing step. And next comes your compiling. So during this stage, compiling stage, whatever the code you have written would be converted to machine understandable language. Whatever the code you have written would be converted to machine understandable language. Okay, and one final step is execution. Okay, so once you have the machine understandable code ready, now your machine understandable code would be executed in your processor cores. Okay, so I hope every one of you know that your processor have cores, right? CORES. Hope every one of you aware of this term core. Okay, so what does that mean? So basically, your processor have cores. If your processor has 2 cores, we call it as a dual core processor. If it has 4 cores, we call it as quad core processor, hexacore, octa-core. Okay, so basically these cores are responsible for the performance of your system. When it's a performance, the more cores you have, the more processes you can run. Okay, so for example, in my machine, if you are seeing file explorer is open and then notepad is open, word document is open, browser is open, gotomeeting is open, they are all different processors. Sorry, they are different processes, and these processes are running in different cores in the backend. Okay, I'm using an i5 machine. So you might ask me, boss, i5 has 4 cores, how come you are able to run 6 7 different processes? So that scheduling will come into picture. Okay, so scheduling will come into picture, and these cores will be allocated for all these processes in a round robin fashion. There are different algorithms which will do that. We'll talk about only round robin fashion. Okay, maybe it will give some milliseconds or microseconds to one process, some microseconds to another process. Okay, and they will happen less than a blink of your eyelid. Okay, so it's that fast and you'll not be able to notice that lag. Okay, so for example, if you have opened so many apps, let's talk about your mobile. Maybe you have opened 30 40 different apps, and then maybe your yeah, I mean some kid from your home is playing a game and he observes some lag in the game. The first step he will do, even a kid knows, right, to he'll clear up all the apps and then will start playing again, because he knows clearing all those processes or clearing all those apps would release some resources for RAM and also some resources for your from your processor. So now all the resources that are available would be dedicatedly used by this particular app. Okay, so that is the reason he would be able to play the game without any lag, right? So cores are important when it comes to running multiple processes seamlessly. And then RAM would play a vital role to store the data, which is used by these processes. Okay, I'll give you a simple example. Maybe you are running a .mp4 file using a VLC media player software. This VLC media player software program will be running in one of your processors, and whatever the MP4 file you are viewing, right? So that MP4 file would be loaded to the RAM. So that's how data is stored in RAM, and the processors, I mean, the instructions would be executed in a processor. Okay, so these cores will play a vital role, guys. So even when we talk about multi-threading, it's a though we don't cover multi-threading in our course, the same thing happens. You will be configuring all these cores while doing this multi-threading programming. Okay, now talking about our concept, after compiling, execution would happen in one or the other core in your processor. Okay, so let's say you have 4 cores. Whatever the core that is available at that point in time, your code would be executed. So these are the 3 high-level steps, guys. Again, from one programming language to another programming language, these steps can be more granular or it could be more high-level. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Perfect. Cool. Now let's talk about compiled versus interpreted language, guys. So what are the discussion we had so far? Would help us to understand this compiled and interpreted programming languages easily. Now talking about interpreted language, you can, I mean, in interpreted language, compilation and execution can happen at every line of your code. Okay, let's say Python is a interpreted programming language. Now you might ask me, what is the advantage you get for interpreted programming language? For interpreted programming language, right, you can write one line of code, execute, see the output. You write second line of code, execute and see the output. You write third line of code, execute and see the output. That's not the case with the compiled programming language. That's not the case with compiled programming language. So because in compiled programming language, compilation would happen only after you have written the entire code. Say for example, you're developing logic for you know for adding 2 numbers. You'll have to write the complete logic and then compile the whole code and then execute it again. You'll have to take care of all these things. Talking about interpreted language, you don't need to do all these things. You just write your code, maybe a single line of code, and check the output, then write second line of code, check the output, third line of code, check the output, so on and so forth. Okay, so for this interpreted languages, right, compilation and execution can happen at a single line of code level. Okay, so what advantage do you get? As a programmer, you will get complete control on your program. Okay, you can't, I mean, you don't really need to write the entire code and then compile it, then execute it, and test if you are getting the desired output. If something is not as per your expectation, you might have to debug your code and again, make the changes to your code, compile it, executed it. we don't have that pain when it comes to Python, thanks to Guido von Rossum again. It's an interpreted language. You write one line of code, check the output, second line of code, check the output. So you are constructively creating your code. Okay, so that makes the programmer life easy, guys. As simple as that. Okay. Like I said, if you have some hands-on with Java and Scala, right? From tomorrow onwards, you will keep a photo of Guido von Rossum in your, God's room. Okay, because it's going to be that easy, right? And now let's talk about procedural and object-oriented programming structures, guys. I mean, to be very honest, I'm a huge fan of Python. So a lot of times you hear me praising Guido von Rossum a lot. Okay, so this procedural is a top-down approach, and then OOPS follows bottom-up approach. Okay, so at this point in time, if you don't understand what OOPS is, or if it doesn't make sense to you, that's totally okay. Okay, because this is your very first session, and I'm gonna walk you through this object-oriented programming structures concepts for almost 10 days, 2 weeks. Okay, so if you don't understand what exactly OOPS is, that's okay, but try to understand what is this top up and top down and bottom up approach. Okay, so basically this classification is based on how you implement your code, guys. This classification, this procedural versus object oriented programming structures, this classification is based on how you implement your code. Okay, so talking about procedural way, right? So in this way, your program will be executed one line after the other. So first line executed, second line executed, third line executed, fourth line executed, so on and so forth. Okay, and talking about object oriented programming structures or object oriented programming, it's a bottom up approach. So it's not executed line by line, guys. So basically, you implement a class, and then you implement functions in your class. These classes have properties, and then you create an object to that class, and you call those functions. Only when you call those functions would be executed. Okay, it's not that though you have written those functions in the first 5 lines, in the first 10 lines, it doesn't matter. Those lines will be executed only when you call that. Okay, so that's the beauty of object oriented programming structures, guys. Okay, so object oriented programming, I mean, it's difficult to maintain when it comes to procedural programs, because you keep writing hundreds and thousands of lines of code. Okay, talking about object oriented programming structures, you can modularize your code, you can have different classes, you can have different packages, you can have different modules, right? So this object oriented programming structures would always give you that modular approach. Okay, so yeah, sure, Satya, I can do that. So talking about procedural, let's say I want to calculate sum of two numbers. Okay, maybe I can just do it this way. Int is equals to 10. This is not Python code, guys. I'm just randomly writing some code. These are not Python syntaxes too. Now int c is equals to a plus b. Okay, now I just want to print c. I'm just using printf, and then I'm printing c. Okay, this is a c code actually. Or okay, now int a is equals to 10, int b is equals to 20, int c is equals to a plus b, printf of c. Now what this will do is it will take integer, I mean it will take a value to b, it will take a value of 10 and store it in variable a. It will take a value of 20 and store it in b, variable name b, and then it will calculate 10 plus 20, 30, and store it in c, and printf of c will print the result, which is 30. Okay, so this is procedural. So it will keep on executing one step at a time, and in an ordered fashion. Say for example, line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, line number 4, so on and so forth. The best example is C. C is a procedural language. C++ can be implemented in both procedural way and object oriented way. Now talking about object oriented, right? I know the terms might sound alien to you, French and Latin to you. That's totally fine, because you don't know what is a class, you don't know what is an object yet. Okay, that's totally okay. But at this point in time, I want you to understand this object oriented way would let you build your applications or implement your applications in a modular way. This object oriented approach will let you do that in a modular way. So rather than writing code one by one, line by line, you can identify all the functions which you would need, and implement all those functions separately, and then call them as and when required. And then everything is an class and object there. Okay, so you will implement all the necessary classes you would need to run your application, and create an object as and when required. Like I said, I'm not expecting you to understand what is a class and an object, but I want you to just remember this object oriented approach would give you a modular way to implement your solutions. Okay, but procedural you can easily understand. It's pretty simple. You write 10 lines of code, all the 10 lines of code will be executed one after the other. First line, second line, third line, fourth line, so on and so forth. In object oriented, though you have written 10 lines of code, it doesn't guarantee that first it will be executed in a sequential way. Okay, it depends on how you call your functions, it depends on how you create your objects and other things. Does that make sense now to everyone? Python is an object-oriented programming language, guys. Okay, Python is an object-oriented programming language, but um, okay, let me keep that with me for now. I'm gonna let you know once we have covered few other concepts. Okay, otherwise it will confuse you. Now let me introduce the environment. SQL is not object-oriented. SQL is not object oriented, and also SQL SQL is not considered as a programming language. SQL is a query language. Okay. Now, this is the environment which we'll be using, guys, Collab. Okay. Now, just type Google Collab. I hope every one of you have Gmail accounts. So to get the collaboratory account, all you just need to have is a Gmail account. That will do. Okay, so collab.research.google.com is the link. Just click on that. Okay, so it will show all the recent notebooks, but I'm canceling it. Okay, so this is how your homepage would look like, guys. Since I have already logged into my browser, I'm just seeing my account here. But if you are not logged into your browser, you'll have to log in using a Gmail account. So no sign up required, no other process required. All you must need to have is a Gmail account, and the moment you open this link, you will get this. Okay, and this is a very powerful tool, guys. Though it is cloud based, it is a very powerful tool, and whatever the code you are developing here would be stored in the Google Drive account, in Google Drive associated with this account, whatever the account you're logging in. Okay, you can find all your collabs there. Okay, now just click on File, New Notebook. There you go. So this is my first Python notebook with an extension IPYNB. These notebooks will have an extension IPYNB, stands for Interactive Python Notebook. interactive Python notebook. Okay, so let me change this name to playground, and your batch start date 10/3/2022. Okay, now our first program, print hello everyone, come to our Python course. Okay, now let me show you a couple of interesting things, guys, before we wrap up today's session. So on top right corner, you'll see something called as connect. So right now it's a web page. You'll have to connect to some backend. When I say backend, that backend will give you RAM and processor to run your code. Okay, now let me connect to it. So it is allocating some resources for me. Google is allocating these resources for me, and I will be connected to some Python 3 environment. Guys, one more important thing. We are going to learn Python 3, guys. Okay, so there are a lot of versions in Python. We will be learning Python 3 in our course, which is the latest one. Okay, and if you hover over this, you could see connected to Python 3 Google Compute Engine backend, and they have given us almost 13 GB of RAM, and they have given us almost 107 GB of hard disk. Okay, and if you haven't used this Google Collab, it will be automatically disconnected. For some time it will be automatically disconnected, but you can reconnect back as many times as you want, just like I did now. Now let me execute this. All you just need to do is run this play button, run cell, and the shortcut would be control enter, control plus enter. I'm running this. There you go, you have your output here. Hello everyone, welcome to Python course. Okay, I just want to introduce the environment for you so that you can set up this environment. We will talk about all these things, what function I have used and other things. So just a kind of hello world program, a simple basic one. Okay, so this is going to be our first tool, guys, for developing Python applications. But like I said, as we proceed further, we'll be using PyCharm IDE, we'll be using Git. I'll show you how to connect your IDE with Git, and how to how to clone the code from Git repositories, and how to make changes and push it back to Git repositories. I'll be covering all those things, so don't worry. Okay, and then I'm also going to show you how to install Anaconda's distribution in your PC if you don't want to run it on a cloud-based editor. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Perfect. Cool. Then that's all I have for today, guys. I'm leaving you, early, four minutes early. Okay. Just a couple of things from me. Make sure you join the session by 7:35 a.m. IST sharp, because I'll be starting session at 7:35, guys. I'll give you 5 minutes grace time. Okay. But like I said, you'll not miss anything because recordings are always there. And one last thing I would like to hear from you is your feedback. So before you disconnect from the session, please leave a feedback on the chat window. Okay, so I'll not be bugging you every day for feedback, guys, but I'll be taking feedback at regular intervals. Okay, just to make sure that every one of us are in sync, and if something needs to be improved, I'll have a chance to do it. Okay. Yeah, sure, Nisha. So I'll be viewing the comments, guys. Waiting for your feedback before you leave. Thank you. If you want to ping it personally to me, yes, you can do that. You can select only me and ping it to me.
Hello?
Yeah, Nisha.
Yeah, this is Nisha. So just 1 minute. My husband wants to talk to you. Just,
One moment, please.
yeah.